We are a part of the economy. We are part of the infrastructure. We are tethered to this society here. So you can't own, operate, or run no business here, and you trying to alienate and ostracize our culture. This is expediTIously. I'm your host, Tip T.I. Harris. We have with us today my brother that I fight shoulder to shoulder with, man, in this revolution of ours. He goes by the name of Shaun King, one of the most followed and shared activists, journalists, and men of respect on the planet, man. Shaun has authored over 1,500 articles on topics ranging from police brutality and mass incarceration to white supremacy and voter suppression. Shaun is the CEO of the North Star. Now, the North Star, if you don't know, it was the publication that Frederick Douglass.
That's right.
Over initially
150 years, over 150 years ago, Frederick Douglass.
Over 150. And the reason I know this now is because I am the alma mater. My alma mater is Frederick Douglass High School.
That's right.
Here in Atlanta. Go Astros, black and gold. You dig what I'm saying? But aside from that, you know, he's also the host of The Breakdown, co-founder of Grassroots Law Project, and is very active in the Real Justice PAC and the Action PAC. And I want him to tell me a little bit about what a PAC is, and we'll talk about how effective they are and how they work on our behalf.
Yep.
The political action groups that he also co-founded. His best-selling book, Make Change, considers the ways social movements can grow and evolve in this hyper-connected era. In the past, Shaun has been the senior justice writer for the New York Daily News, social justice writer for The Intercept, writer in residence at Harvard Law School, and voice of social justice on the legendary Tom Joyner Morning Show. Shaun was raised in Kentucky and received his undergraduate degree from Morehouse right here in my city of Atlanta. Later received his graduate degree from Arizona State University. Welcome to the show, bro.
Yeah, glad to be here with you, man. No, it's my honor, man. Always glad to talk with you and work with you.
Right on. And to go beyond that, thank you for all of your contributions and all your sacrifices, all that you do, man, for on behalf of our people, your people.
Well, I appreciate you too.
And I mean, I make it a point to say that because I know it's a thankless job. And a lot of times, you know what I'm saying, people don't really understand the work, so they don't even know how to appreciate the work.
Yeah. And sometimes I feel like we have to own that. And so part of what I try to do is to explain to people in a way that they can understand what the work actually is. And for instance, there's this horrible case in Louisiana right now of this young boy who was found murdered. Yeah, and his family and friends called him Bobby. And every day I see people say, Shaun, how come you're not helping this family? And I had to tell people, only about 10% of what I do makes it onto Instagram.
Right.
And I'm working with the family and their attorneys and private investigators. But what happens is sometimes for people, if they don't see it on IG, they don't see it on social media, it's not real to them. And so instead of fighting against that, I try to use social media, my podcast and other things to kind of break down the nuance of the work that we do and what it really means.
I mean, it's so much going on right now, bro.
Oh yeah, man. It's
so
hard to keep up
right now.
Yeah.
I mean, internally as well as externally, man.
Yep.
And for me, you know, I'm not a full-time activist. You know what I'm saying? I do my best just because I have a sincere, genuine passion for helping our people and doing what I can, use my platform to work on their behalf, bro. And you know, that's it. I don't get paid.
Right, but we've grown to see you. I know me and others of us who do this work, and we're grateful for anybody who lends their influence and support. But you've been so consistent that in this activism space, like we don't even just see you as like a special guest. You're here often, speaking out often, in the streets often, and in behind the scenes, you're regularly encouraging and supporting organizers across the country. And so, I mean, I've even over the years, I was a fan of you long before I knew you. And I lived in Atlanta from 97 until 2010.
Okay.
And so I I was growing, you and I are about the same age, so I was growing up at the same time you were growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I've grown to really see you at this point as, I see you as an organizer of people. You inform people. And so I know you're an artist and an entrepreneur, but you are very much an activist and an organizer, and you devote your time to it damn near every day.
Man, that means a lot to me. I mean, it really do, especially from someone as acclaimed and you know, as prestigious in the arena as you are, bro. But I'm gonna tell you though, I never really considered the pain, or should I say the frustration that comes with continuously having to fight with the people that I'm fighting for. It's a frustration, and I feel like, you know, a lot of times I ask myself, man, why don't I just mind my rich ass business?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, I could ride off into the sunset, man, in my Rolls Royce, man, go live in my ivory tower and look down on it all and really like not concern myself with it. But it wouldn't feel like me being myself.
Well, see, that's the thing. You know, every day I have to ask myself, like, I'm at the house now. We have security at the front door, and I can't even walk down the block without security going with me at this point because of all the threats and all the drama that we experience. And I get all the drama and ugliness online as well. And I have to, you know, regularly my wife and my mother and even my children ask me like, Dad, can you do something else? You know, and it pains me and hurts me because I'm doing this. They don't want me to do something else because it's not because they don't respect what I do, but they see all the pain and drama and strife and beef. And the same thing is true of me. Like, I have 10 other options of things that I could do and just go somewhere and mind my business and not even be as public. And yet I do what I do because I feel called to do it. I do what I do because I love our people. And so even though it hurts when you get the pushback from the same people that you're fighting for, I just have to remind myself, like, listen, I'm doing this out of a place of love.
Right.
And if people sometimes push back from a place of pain or ignorance, I just try to let that stuff slide off. Yeah, you got to let it slide off, man. And the bottom line is, and this is true for me and it's true for you, the people who know you and the people who love you understand your motivations. They understand why you're doing what you're doing. And I have to just know that the people that are in my circle, they get me and they understand me. And the same is true for you. And so it's not that I don't see the criticisms. And I'm like you in this sense, where if somebody has a legitimate criticism of me, I'll think about it and I'll even say, you know what, I was wrong on this, or you know what, I've learned and I'm pivoting here. But some things aren't criticism. Some things are just hate and ugliness and gossip. That stuff, I gotta let that stuff as best as I can just slide off of me.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think so. I've seen you, you know, speak about how your activism has affected your life and your lifestyle on a daily. I've seen you speak about, you know, having death threats and, you know, people speak about making attempts on your life. But the thing is, for you, that's coming from the other side.
Well, sometimes, you know, like, so for instance, when I first started becoming known for fighting against police brutality and stuff, it was mainly white supremacists that were fighting against me. And then in 2015 or so, it became kind of mainstream conservatives who were the main people fighting against me.
Right.
Then in 2016, it was liberal and moderate white people who would fight against me when I would speak out. But the closer it got, by 2017, 2018, some of the most painful hate that I would get on a regular basis would come from Black folk. And that's on a daily basis. It doesn't matter.
That hurt more. It hurt, like, it's a different type of pain.
Oh man. So,
because it make you feel like all of your efforts are useless. Like like you just
it is
exerting
just
futile energy. It's a futile activity to even try to, you know, misunderstandings happen every day.
Yeah.
But once you recognize that there's a misunderstanding and address it as a misunderstanding, to continue on with that level of ignorance or that level, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, man, bro, you know what? And then, you know, to hear people say, man, why don't you just mind your business? Why you talking too much? Bro, because I'm the only motherfucker care enough to talk.
Yeah.
If somebody else say something sometimes, I can shut the fuck up.
I see a couple things though. I see people who aren't parents are the primary people who critique other people's parenting. And so I have 5 kids, and we just took in an additional family member of mine. So we're up to 6 kids in the house.
That's right.
And
that's real. Hey man, that's getting groovy. We need to sit. Hey man, we need to shoot an episode of Family Hustle up there.
right. I rarely see parents critiquing other people's parenting online, because this shit is hard. It is. When you have, it don't matter if you have 1 kid or 6.
It does.
Yeah. Well,
it definitely does.
Well, the thing is, I rarely see people that are parents critiquing parenting. And the same is true for activism and organizing. I rarely see people who are actually doing the hard work of activism and organizing criticizing other activists and organizers. It's just because this work is so hard.
We have respect.
Yeah, and you understand that the work is so hard. You know, I had you on my show a couple weeks ago, and we talked about how at the very last minute, you and I fought to save Nate Woods, and Nate Woods was ultimately executed. And I think about Nate and his family every day, and he should be a household name. Well, if you've ever fought to stop an execution, and then experience the pain that the family and friend, then you would never talk about anybody who does that work, because you realize it's so hard, it's so painful. And here's where I have worked now with almost 500 families who've lost loved ones to police violence.
Right.
Those families love me and support me. I love them and support them. They could call me 24 hours a day. And it's really, I've chosen, for me, it's their love and support that matters most to me. And so when I see the drama, like there's a meme that people share. I think I sent you this. Did you see where there's one where it says the king and the kang, and it has a picture of it has a picture of me and a picture of you. And people meant it as a diss, but they meant it to be funny. And some of it's a couple of different ways, man. Like, I just know also that our community is in so much pain that we use humor and disses and gossip and drama to get through it. Yeah. And a lot of times and when you're the recipient of it, it hurts. Right. But you just got to let it slide.
We participate and laugh. We chuckle every now and again when it's on somebody else.
Right.
We do.
And so our people are hurting, and there are lots of ways that we deal with that pain. Right. And one of them is humor. The other is gossip and rumor. All of that stuff, these are things we do to take our mind off of how painful the day can be. Out of the hundreds and hundreds of families that I've helped, I've dealt with all types of complications when trying to fight for a family who's looking for some type of justice. And it stings even more when you're trying to help a family and you get some type of pushback or criticism from somebody that you're trying to help. But there are a few things that I've tried to even teach people. One, when somebody has experienced an injustice, often they get famous, I put in like air quotes, they get famous overnight. And suddenly they get people who are pulling at them from a million different directions. And then someone, it could be me or you or somebody else, says, well, I'm definitely going to help this person. I see it. I'm bothered by it. I'm going to chip in and help. And so I saw when some people, when the owners of this particular restaurant in Atlanta were mistreating this young Black family that was in the spot, I shared the video and I was as pissed and frustrated as everybody else. Right. I love Atlanta, and people who love and know Atlanta were frustrated. People who love Black people saw it and were frustrated. And you then said, listen, I'm going to see what I can do to help. Now,
wait a minute. Now, mind you, let's just walk through this.
Let's do it.
Not even that I said I was going to see what I could do to help. I reposted what I saw my sister EJ post, and it said, we're gonna have to shut Umi down like we did Houston's.
Right.
EJ and I, we were shoulder to shoulder in the
Yep.
Houston's demonstration, and we were
I
successful.
remember.
And I said, okay, well, if EJ's in, I'm in. And I
Right.
posted it, right? After I posted it, I began getting calls immediately. Immediately, calls began coming to me. I didn't have to pick up the phone and call anybody.
Right.
Calls began coming to me. And immediately it was the mayor called me. Shaka, who's Luda's management, he called me. My DJ MLK called me. You know, I immediately called EJ. I said, hey, what's going on? Have you already spoken to these people? Because everybody who called me, oh, and Ryan Cameron. Ryan Cameron called me. Okay, so I said, EJ, have you spoken to these people? Because everyone who called me said that the owner he's extremely sorry and he wants to meet right now, and he wants us to figure out or help him figure out how he can rectify his wrongdoings.
Right.
Which is, you know, this as a demonstrator, as an organizer, we usually have to march in the streets before we make it to that.
Yeah, that's normally the end result. So they normally have to be, but see, it built up on, and see, some of it is we've all learned, and I think he's probably witnessed what happens as well. And I think his first thought was, yeah, I need to come to the table with my hat in my hand right away.
Right.
And so people are coming to that conclusion a lot faster than they used to. And even
which
in
is
just
progress that most people don't really recognize.
Right.
Those of us who we had to fight to get it to this place, to where now all we got to do is post.
Yeah.
And they come calling. To me, that is progress.
Yes, I mean, and so because he started seeing right away that people were posting on his Google reviews and his Yelp reviews, and even Yelp now has a new policy that if enough customers say this is a racist establishment, Yelp even has a new label they'll place on there to say we have received credible complaints. So when he started seeing the pushback from you, from everyday people, when he started getting the phone calls and he started seeing those Yelp reviews and Google reviews, smartly, right away, he said, okay, how can I fix this? But then it got weird.
Now let me ask you this. After you have someone coming saying, listen, I need to know what I can do to make it right.
Yeah.
I feel that I failed as a businessman and I failed as a human. What is it that I can do? Will you please sit down with me? At that point, what is it that a person in our position is expected to do?
Well, here's the thing. That's about as much as you can ask from somebody, you know. And again, it also gets to, you approach that, you're also an entrepreneur and you understand, yeah, that's about all we can get out of somebody unless we just want to destroy someone's business without ever giving them an opportunity to make it right.
Which then makes us the oppressor in a way.
Then puts us in, you know, we've now reversed roles.
Right.
And so if somebody is sincere and earnestly says, I messed up, and now we could go to the meeting and come out and say, listen, we don't believe him. The meeting was bad, you know, any of those types of things. But at that point, if somebody's not just saying, I want to meet, but they're saying, show me how to make this right, that's about the best we can get.
That is the most favorable outcome as anyone could expect. So I call EJ and tell her, hey, he wants to meet, you know, and she says, okay, cool, let's meet. I say, fine, I'm gonna have him come to the Trap Music Museum, say around 5:36. She said, okay, I could be there. EJ, by the way, 9 months pregnant.
Yeah.
9 months pregnant.
Full-term pregnancy at that
point. Gets out of her bed, comes out of her house in COVID times to deal with this matter. Her also, and another activist by the name of Queen, who also joined us. So we go there, and
She's good people too. Like
absolutely,
I trust both of them as much
they
as I
solid.
trust anybody. Yeah.
I mean, in the world of activism, in the world of demonstrations and organizing, they are genuine and solid as far as my eyes have been able to
Yeah,
see.
particularly they're on the ground. They're on the ground in
Boots on the
Atlanta.
ground,
Yep.
consistent,
Yep.
doing the work day in and day out, whether the cameras are on or off. So those are the people I called. I didn't go hold the meeting on my own. I called the people who I felt like I could, I could align myself with, and who I could trust to watch everything I might not see. So we go and we sit and we meet. And of course, he said, "Yeah, man, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry." And we were just, my thing was, "Hey, listen, you in Atlanta, this culture, we run this city, period. Don't nothing move or shake without our culture. We
Right.
are a part of the economy. We are part of the infrastructure. We are tethered to this society here. So you can't own, operate, or run no business here, and you trying to alienate and ostracize our culture. Can't
Right.
happen, right?" He says, "I understand, I get it. I'm willing to immediately remove whatever rules, whatever policies were in place, whatever that is. Y'all let me know how I can,
Mhm.
I said, "All right, cool." And then he said, "I'm getting death threats." He said, "People are threatening to kill me. The police told me it's not safe for me to be at my home. Can we please just let everybody know that, that we are talking?"
Mm.
So now me as a man, we're not looking for violence. We don't want blood in the streets. That's not, what I'm saying? That kind of line has not been crossed.
But see, again, though, it gets back to this kind of core idea of our conversation. You you are somebody that's also experienced violence in the worst ways, where you've lost loved ones and friends and
Sure.
others. And when you've experienced this, you're not so quick to talk about it on Instagram as a thread, or people who, by and large, people who are posting threats and making them, and they've never actually been on the other side of that, to
Right.
understand that these are things you don't just throw around. And this is a trend of a lot
Well,
of people.
you would
Well,
think that, but we will
well,
get to the other side of that later on. But you're right. So,
well,
I missed the part before we took the meeting. I asked EJ, have you spoke to the couple? Have you spoke to the young
mm,
lady and the young gentleman that had the incident? She said, "No, I DM'd them, waiting for their numbers. Soon as they hit me back, I'll call them." So they hadn't hit her back by the time
mm,
we had the meeting. So while we're in the meeting, we do the video, and not letting them off the hook,
yeah,
telling him, "Hey man, you ain't gonna be able to operate your business like this." He, in return, said, "I apologize, I understand. We're gonna work on it, whatever we gotta do to make it right." Which means the conversation is not over. We
yeah,
just got it to a place where he said, "Tell me what you want,"
yeah,
right? And after that video, more calls, more calls. "How could you? You didn't talk to us. You didn't talk to the people. Whoa, bro, what are you talking about? We're talking right now. We're in the midst of the discussion. This is the time."
yeah.
So by the time I make it back to my studio, which is probably about 3 minutes away from the museum, EJ calls me and say, "Listen, the couples called now and they're putting up a video and they're da da da." I say, "Man, call them on three-way."
Yeah.
So she calls me, connects them, and I say, "Listen, what would you like to see happen?" "I don't know, man. I just can't believe you did." "I did what? What are you talking about, bro? You went and talked without talking to us." And bro, I'm talking to you now. It
Yeah.
wasn't nothing to talk about before I had the conversation. Now
Yeah.
that I know where he stands, I could come back to you, see where you stand, what you would like to happen, and we can all come to the table together for progression.
Well, the tricky part is this. You are somebody, when people even think of Atlanta, you are somebody that immediately comes to mind. Like you as a person, your identity and name is so interconnected with the city, and that's how you built it. Like Atlanta is not just your home. It's your headquarters for your business. I mean,
Right.
it's what you. And so there's this tricky part where, as a leader in the city, not just as an organizer, but as an entrepreneur and a voice and as a spokesperson for the city, you feel a burden to intervene when something goes wrong.
Right.
You feel like I have to stand up and intervene here because so much of who you are is interconnected to the city. But I've had moments where I spoke out against an injustice
Mm-hmm.
that someone else asked me to speak out on,
Mm-hmm.
and then later a family might say, "Well, we didn't ask you to say that."
Mm.
And I have kind of pivoted and changed some of how I approach it now, moving forward.
As
Generally,
as well as I.
yeah, and so I'm going to still speak out, but now if I'm going to actually take my time and go to a meeting and stuff like you did, if I don't see that the family is involved or wants me involved, I'll just, I might post something about it and say, let's support this family. But now my new policy is, nah, if the family is not wrapped up in it, I'm just not going to do it.
But see,
And
this is the thing, right? Because the family has genuine intentions,
true.
and they have to, and they have to have ambitions of
Yeah.
progressing. You can't want to stay stagnant, because when we finally got the gentleman and the young lady here,
Yeah.
we said, okay, what would you like to see happen? What do you
Mhm.
want?
Right.
And I think she said, well, they can buy us that building, baby. I say, well,
I,
what
well,
what
what
do
I
you
was,
want to see happen for the people, for the
yeah.
multitudes of people that are of our culture, of our generation, that go into this restaurant?
Mm,
How would you like to affect their experience?
right.
And then it was like, well, we asked them something about opening up so the less fortunate who can't afford to come in there could come in there and sit down. I say, that's great. Then they say, well, no, he done already said he'll do that. I don't want. I said, well, ain't that the point?
Mm.
To ask him to do things, to get him to agree, and to get things done so we can move forward.
Man,
But I feel like they saw more value in the conflict,
mm.
because
Well,
they said, well, maybe we should just shut it down, because all he gonna do is open back up and make money. Like,
mm.
well, yeah, that's kind of the point.
Well, there's this phrase that has been so heavy on my mind. I shared it with my staff at Grassroots Law Project. I think about it all the time. The phrase is, you don't know what you don't know.
Mm,
And a lot of times, so as you tell me the story about this couple, what happened to them was wrong. It was
it
horrible.
was.
And when you and I and other people saw it, we were pissed
Sure.
and wanted to help.
But not just pissed for them, though.
Oh, I understand. Like,
We're
no, it's like,
pissed for the multitudes,
and
the
because
collective.
the truth is it probably had happened there before,
Mm-hmm.
and somebody just didn't get a viral video and all so if it's happened once, it's happened before.
Sure. I got calls saying that these guys, that they're not sincere in their, in their efforts and their word, and basically telling me that they can't be trusted.
Well,
Those
my
are the
thing
calls
is,
that I got
well,
after the
the
video.
couple when people experience that type of injustice, they then what I've and so I see them with kind of sympathetic eyes, because what I really think is they didn't ask for they didn't ask for what happened to them to happen, and then they really get overwhelmed by, because here's the thing, I've trended on social media 100 times, you've trended on social, like, there have been days in my life, and the same is true of you, where I have been the most talked about person in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know what that feels like,
Yeah.
and I can handle it, and at this point I can ride it out and go through
Right.
it.
I call it sitting in the fire.
Yeah. So I can sit in the fire because I've been through it. And like you, even before I was famous, I was going through the fire. And
Right.
so I can handle the pressure. But that couple and a lot of people who experience injustice, man, they get overwhelmed by that fire and that attention.
Mm-hmm.
And I have gotten to the point where I expect there to be a certain level of conflict and weirdness. And I see it with sympathetic eyes, because I think normally what's happening is they're just overwhelmed.
Okay.
And they're overwhelmed by all the people in their ears.
Right.
And what happens is lawyers come out of the woodwork saying,
Right.
don't do this, this, or this. People, family is pulling on them saying, do this, don't do that. And so all of a sudden, you get somebody at the table and they don't know what they don't know. They don't
Right.
know what's right. They don't know what's best.
Okay.
And
I
it's,
appreciate you for
yeah.
this insight, because this is these are things that I need to hear.
But
You
see,
know.
that's what also has caused me to not say, fuck it, I'm out. I'm not doing this stuff anymore,
Man.
because the people we're trying to help often are just overwhelmed by the moment. And what they're really overwhelmed by is, because here's the thing. You already know what it's like to have tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of people talking about you, tagging you. We've already been through that. But if you removed all that from your life and it happens for you for the
The very
first time,
first time. Yeah.
oh man, those people, you
It's a
just
lot.
got to give them a pass. You got to
It's a
give them
lot.
a pass.
Well, I don't. I try not to be overly critical of them. I tried to. I tried to approach it from that standpoint. Up until uh, in the meeting, I offered. I offered the opportunity. I said, well, you know what? I posted a video with them, letting them speak their piece. I
Yeah.
want to offer you the same opportunity, extend you the same courtesy. And the gentleman said, man, I don't even know what to say. We could take a picture, but I wouldn't even know what to say. Like I say, and he said it with such contempt, you know what I mean? That I just was like,
Who
you know
knows?
what, bro? All right, you
Who
got it.
knows?
Cool.
Yeah.
So he leaves,
Yeah.
and I go on about my business. And
Yeah.
then about 30, 40 minutes later, folk hit me. I believe it was Yellow Beezy, if I ain't mistaken. My
Okay.
partner Yellow Beezy, man, from Dallas. He hit me. He say, see, King, that's why I just mind my business. I'm like, what you talking about? He was like, oh, you ain't seen the video? I'm like, nah, what video? Then just this show. The dude is up here on a video talking about, how disappointed he was in me. When I just offered you an opportunity to say your thing, and you said you wouldn't know what to say. You figured it out on the ride home, though.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's when I felt attacked at that point. Like,
Well,
bro,
all I can ask you as your brother and as your peer is let that situation be what it is, and know that out of every 100 people you help, you might get one or two that are like that, but you got to focus on the other 98 that aren't. And you could probably think right now of so many families that you fought for, stood for. I can tell you, there's so many families that I've worked with that just when they saw you mention their case or say their name, because some of these families, they're never going to get justice. And just to know that the people that they love and admire see them and care, man, it's like medicine to some of these families,
man,
because
I'm happy
sometimes
to do that.
the police won't meet with them, the prosecutors won't meet with them, but when they see that somebody they love and have known cares and sees
Right.
what they're going through, it matters. And so every blue moon it's going to get weird,
Yeah.
but you can't bail, because the weird moments, they do sit with you. But you gotta,
That shit sting, man.
it does
That
sting.
shit sting, bro. I mean, I don't make a dime off this shit. Then I see motherfuckers in my comments. Yeah, what Biden and them paying you?
Oh,
Are you
right, right.
crazy?
Well, listen, I get that.
Democrats don't pay anybody anything. What the
Right,
fuck are
like
you talking about?
I did almost 50 events for Bernie Sanders. I traveled
Right.
all over the country for Bernie. Never made a dime. I did all that on my own money. I paid for my own travel.
Right.
And I kept seeing people all the time saying, what's this man paying you to do this? Like, no. This is what I believe in. This is what I'm trying to do.
Right.
Same thing. It's like, if I have a critique of Bernie or of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, it's like, nobody's paying me to have
Right.
this critique. I'm thinking for myself.
Independent thinking is just so it's so out of the norm to some
Yeah,
people.
it
That
is.
they think that every message that comes out of our mouths has to be, kind of an agenda, a paid agenda.
Well, some
And
of it is.
and I've heard other people, I've seen people post stuff about something with some money, and they suspected you of holding some people's money and
Oh,
shit
yeah.
like that.
Every day people say this, man. And it's like,
Man,
listen. Do you
How
understand?
in the hell do you take that? Because I see you going through that the same way, like with me in this situation, kind of like, look, man, like for
Oh, it
one,
hurt. Well, it hurts me. Almost every day, I have raised now for causes and charities and families. I've raised tens of millions of dollars.
mm,
Never, not one day in my life, has that money even gone through my hands. I've
right,
never even held money to release it to people.
right,
When I raise money for families or causes or charities,
mm-hmm,
all I'm literally doing is sharing the links.
right.
And I don't
The
manage.
links that they have access to the accounts that they gave,
Yeah, that they get. And I've
they
had to tell.
directing the path and the flow of the funds.
Yeah, and I've had to tell people I don't have usernames and passwords. And here's the thing: if you raise money for a cause and you keep, it doesn't matter if it's $1,000 or five of that, that's against the law. And
Mm,
I've had to explain to people what you're saying I'm doing is a criminal act.
right,
And if I was doing it over and over and over again, if I did it once,
right,
I would literally be prosecuted for it because
right.
everything I do out in the open.
That's right.
Man, I gave access to my bank accounts, 10 years of my tax returns
Mm,
to a group of people, including Tamika Mallory and others.
right,
I gave them usernames and passwords. We released a report showing every dime that I had raised, every family I've ever raised money for cooperated in this process. They issued statements saying, no, we literally asked him to share this information. Even after we released the report, people were saying, well, how can I trust the report? We
mm,
had an independent auditor, a man I had never met, who signed on to the report and said, I independently audited all of this information. People didn't care.
mm.
And in my
And
mind,
that's the shit that make me say, fuck it. You know why?
well, no, because in my mind, I thought it took us 2 or 3 months to make this report and to release it. And I had people in every corner of my life looking at every decision, every dollar I'd ever raised. And my thought was, we release this report, this stuff's going to go away.
Right.
And what I realized is, man, people just like mess. They like it. And the
Hurt
truth
people
is
hurt
not
people.
juicy. Yeah, the truth doesn't go viral.
Right.
And so there have been times where I just thought, you know what? I'm going to keep doing the work I do, but I'm going to stop raising money for families. And here's what I
Mm,
realized. When I stopped raising money for families, nobody else was filling that gap. Nobody else was coming in behind me and doing it.
right.
And so there were several families where I just said, you know what? There's so much drama behind me raising the money. I'm going to stop raising the money. And then all of a sudden I realized so many of the families that needed help, they don't get it. And so I
Right.
just said, listen, I'm going to keep raising the money. I'll keep taking the hits for people saying, like, I have multiple jobs. Like, I work full time.
Right.
And yet people still saying that I'm out here stealing the money. What I realized is that stuff is just not going to go away.
Right.
And I had to just say, the people that I help that still love me and value me, I just have to focus on that.
Yeah,
And
that's key.
and it's easier said than done because we're human.
And that shit hurt.
It does hurt.
I mean, it hurt
And
because I mean, like, at what point does my reputation speak for me? Like, at what point do we not, okay, if this is what's on the table, these are the accusations, this is what's being suspected. At what point do we go back and say, okay, well, let's pull up his track record and let's see along the lines of historically, what has he shown us?
yeah,
When does that begin to speak for me? At what point? How many years? How consistent must I be the same person before you guys stop trying to put me in the
yeah.
suit of another person that don't fit me?
Well, they're not, but here's what I've come to accept. It's never going to stop. And as long as and I am almost at the point where I have even just let go of caring if it stops. Because the more I care about the lies and the criticisms, the more it stings. And now when I see it, I just realize it's never, and as a matter of fact, it was Harry Belafonte. I got an opportunity to host an event with him just about 2 years ago.
Right,
And I told Mr. Belafonte what I was going through at the time. When I hosted this event, it was right at one of these times where people were saying I was stealing money from families and stuff. And I was hurting over it.
Mm,
And he told me, he said, Shaun, as long as you're doing this work, people are going to continue to post lies and spread misinformation. He told me, listen, Shaun, it was the same for Dr. King. He said it was the same for him personally. And he
mm,
said, you just have to decide whether or not the value of doing the work is worth the hits that you take for doing it. And that helped me. At the time I think he was 92 when we hosted that event with him.
mm.
And it's like when a 92-year-old
Must
man
be a real one.
oh man, he's as real as
Must
it
be a
gets.
real one.
I had a conversation I got to spend a whole day with Bobby Seale, the co-founder of the Black Panther Party.
Man.
And he told me almost the same thing that Mr. B said. Bobby Seale told me, he said, listen, as long as you're doing work that's challenging the system and the structures and people in power,
Mm-hmm.
he said, Shaun, he said, the government's going to be involved. Other people are going to be involved. Media organizations, wealthy people are going to push back. And he said, as long as you're doing this, you just need to understand that all of this ugliness comes with it. And his thought was that's almost what destroyed the Black Panther Party.
Mm,
And so I've just started to adjust my mind to understand that a part of doing this work is a lot of ugliness that comes along with it. And I
mm.
found ways where I don't see the ugliness as much anymore. Like I'm not reading my comments. I'm not searching my name on social media or Google. I do the work. I feel good about the work, and I try not to let the drama get in the way.
Right.
Yeah. What can you do?
So let me tell you. I have the Lloyds of London call to action,
Mm-hmm.
where I basically put them on notice and let them know that they are basically indebted to us, and we should be a part of this company, and we should, on behalf of our ancestors who were insured as cargo, and because of their shameful role in the transatlantic slave trade, that they should give $1 million loan at 1% interest, no questions asked, as long as you can prove you are a descendant
Mm.
of one of those slaves. I also feel that Black people, the collective as a whole, the Black people, the 50 million that
Mm.
the 13% of the 13% of this population in America that are descendants of slaves, we should have 10% of this particular company in perpetuity.
That built itself off of the
Built
profits of
itself
slavery.
off
And
the backs of slaves.
yeah, I don't even know if Lloyd's in particular, and many other companies, but Lloyd's in particular, I don't know that they would have made it had that not been one of their primary
The
lines of business.
cornerstone of their
Yeah.
business.
Yeah, and what people don't understand is this wasn't just a smidgen of what they did. We're not talking about dozens of trips or hundreds of trips. Their primary business was ensuring the stealing, the transportation and the delivery
Right?
of Africans from one place to another.
Right?
Thousands and thousands and thousands of ships
The
full of people.
capturing, killing,
Yeah.
raping, enslaving.
All of that. It's all and listen, and they weren't dumb to it. In fact, there's arguably nobody who knew the dirty details of slavery more than Lloyd's of London. It was
Also,
their business to know the dirty details.
they not only insured our ancestors as cargo, they loaned money
Mm,
to the European colonizers
yeah,
to build and buy ships
yeah,
to keep this going.
yeah. They are today, and in part because the nature of their business, they are one of the only businesses that you can look at and say that exists today. So many businesses have closed, have been bought and changed their name. Lloyd's of London is like, no, no, no. This was what you did.
Right.
And they were underwriting, as you said, startups. And
Mm-hmm.
I
Like a
give this
venture
presentation.
capitalist, like the same way people go and get money from venture capitalists to start
That's
Uber,
that's
start
who they were.
Lyft. That's exactly what the Lloyds of London was for colonizers.
Yeah, no, and that's not hyperbole. They were the damn venture capitalists of slavery. And when people said, I want to get in on that business,
They
they
went to
went to
them.
Lloyd's of London.
Mm-hmm.
And here's what they did. I have when people get a chance after COVID, when people get a chance to go to the National Museum of African American History and Culture,
In
there's
DC?
this picture. Yeah, in DC.
Got it.
There's this picture of a slave ship that they have up there, and I give this presentation around the country, and I show this ship, and you can see where they had drawings of everybody that they could fit onto the ship.
Right.
And I'll show it on the screen, and I'll ask students, if I'm speaking at colleges or wherever, I say, what is this that I'm looking at? And students will say, it's a slave ship. I say, no. It's a slave ship. What you're looking at is a business plan.
Right.
And this was literally that document that's on the
A
wall.
profit and loss chart.
Oh, that's what it is. No, it is this diagram. I have to explain to people. They hired architects and designers to show people like Lloyd's of London.
Mm-hmm.
Here's how many human beings, here's how many Africans I can fit onto this ship.
Right.
They were trying to squeeze them tighter and tighter, putting them in every corner.
Right.
I said, no, this is not just a piece of art. This is a damn business plan.
Yeah, a diagram.
That's what it was. And they were presenting it
right.
to companies just like Lloyd's of London.
Mm-hmm.
And I get that Lloyd's looks at it now and says, listen, well, it wasn't any of us that did that. So no, your company exists.
It wasn't none of us that was enslaved, but we still reaping the benefits, or should I say paying the price for it. Yeah. You're still reaping the benefits of it. Man. We're still paying the price for it. How ironic is this? I just put up a post yesterday that a young lady, I saw it, I think it was on 60 Minutes or something.
All right.
It shows an interracial couple that was selling their house. Now, first time they got an appraisal, the appraisal came in shockingly low. So then the black woman of the family, the wife of the family, had an epiphany, as Black women always do, always just brilliantly coming up with things and thinking of all alternatives and contingencies. She said, you know what we're gonna do? I'm gonna take down all my photos, all our sons' photos, who's also a young Black boy. Mm-hmm. All of my family's photos. We're gonna just leave my husband's up. I'm not gonna be present. Me or my child will be present when the appraisal comes. And a separate appraiser came in when it was only white families and family members hanging up in pictures, and only a white man there to greet them. And it was a 40% markup on the appraisal.
Right.
How ironic is it that Black people still to this day are having more excruciating a time getting loans, being treated fairly by lending institutions?
And this,
the irony of that is Lloyd's of London linked to the colonizers that led to the thing that made it this way.
Yeah, and
they can fix it.
And what happened at Lloyd's in so many painful ways, and even that story you just shared, that's not an anomaly. So many studies have shown over and over and over again, people who get car loans, when a white man goes to get a car loan and a Black man goes to get a car loan with the same income, consistently, white men are getting lower interest rates and better deals. Anybody that wants to Google this, Wells Fargo has had to give billions of dollars. Chase has had to settle billions of dollars of lawsuits for the ways, and I'm talking about 2 years ago, 3 years ago, for the way that they have mistreated people based on race. And Lloyd's has just wanted to resist the urge to really admit.
They've already admitted verbally. They gave no action items.
That's right.
Nothing to demonstrate how painfully regretful, remorseful they are.
Yeah.
And there can be no apology without remedy.
Yeah. And that's where we are. That's the phase that we're in right now with Lloyd's. And I appreciate, it's an opportunity for you and all of us to educate people. We talk about the institution of slavery. The people need to understand who were the financiers, who were the venture capitalists in the modern language, who were the people underwriting the cost of it.
The architects of the industry.
That's right. And Lloyd's Lloyd's, they were the experts of how to make sure that it not only worked, but worked well without
It was
interruption.
most lucrative.
Yeah. And
So imagine, right? I find this piece of information.
yeah.
I didn't go to Lloyd's of London myself personally and say, hey, you know what? I got this now. You give me 10 million and I'll shut up.
Right.
What I did was I put a letter together on behalf of the collective of all of the descendants of the slaves. Everybody, all of us as
Yeah.
Black people, everybody here who going through the bullshit.
Yeah.
I'm tired of going and asking and just talking and throwing words around like reparations and stuff like that without having some pathway to it.
Yeah.
So I constructed a letter, wrote it, sent it. They answered it, sent a letter back. So I wrote them a more, I guess you could say, I guess I kind of elaborated a lot more on
Sure.
the effects of their shameful role and how it
Yep.
still plagues our communities today and how they could be a part of repairing it, mending it, and be on the right side of history now,
Yeah.
moving forward.
And see, here's the thing. They could, and you and I talked about this before, a business like Lloyd's could look at this and say, this is going to cost us a lot, but it will also mean that we get to exist as a corporation for forever and ever because we will answer
Right.
to the problems that we've caused. And
Right.
what people don't understand and what Lloyd's may not fully accept is, listen, this could crush your business
Right.
because what you hope to do and what those who are supporting you hope to do is we're going to start squeezing
Yes.
all of the companies that have deals with Lloyd's of London
Yes.
and make their profits shrivel up. And it's like, listen, you could either address this now
Right.
or you're going to pay the price on the back end one way or the other.
Right. So my goal, and this movement is not my movement alone. This is all of ours, everybody's.
Right. Yeah,
this is the one thing we should be able to agree on.
Yeah.
My goal is to get every Black person $1 million. Every one of us, because we all deserve it. Everybody. I want to get every Black person $1 million. Now, how can I go from the person who's being thoughtful enough, trying to come up with ways to get every Black person in America $1 million, and now I'm looking at Black people saying they're gonna kill?
well, you skipped something. What you skipped is the reality that people aren't, when they look at us today, they just look at the tweet in front of them. They just look at the Instagram post in front of them. I see you and I see the whole picture, but you're also my friend. We've met each other. We've worked on stuff together.
Sure.
But other people, they have what social media has done that's terrifying. There are many benefits from it, but what it's done that's terrifying is it reduces us to a single post or a single moment. And so when people look at a post that someone makes about you or anybody, all of a sudden, all they're seeing is that one little moment, and they then forget about A, B, C, D, or E. That's when I spoke up, for Ice Cube, and I tried to speak up for him when all the heat was coming. It was just like, hold on.
I didn't see anything he did wrong personally.
Well, there are several things I wished he had done differently, but what I had to say first was, are you not understanding that this is a man that has literally been fighting for us since I was a damn child?
That's right.
Like,
that's real.
When I think all the way back to when I was in middle school and high school, he was one of the only, when I think back to the LA riots,
Most Wanted, death certificate,
all the way, like this guy was speaking out as strongly as anybody. It's like, hold on, I said the same thing about Nick Cannon. It was like, hold on.
Ice Cube literally wrote, "Fuck the police."
Right, right.
Literally.
Well, people felt like people's hate for Trump is so real and is so deep
and so warranted.
Right. And he earned every bit of that people could not imagine that there is anything that you could do with Trump that is actually of substance.
I don't have a
And
problem with that. I
yeah,
mean, because that's what we call a misunderstanding. That's what
yeah,
communication is for, right? I don't have a problem with people actually being emotional about what they understand to be the truth.
yeah.
However, after this gentleman speaks on it and says, "Hey, no, that ain't me. I ain't doing that. This is what I was doing."
Yeah.
After that correction has been made, at that point, his reputation should then speak for him.
People, man,
Same
that's
for
what I'm
me.
saying, man. They reduce, like, I saw several of the I saw several tweets about Cube that were super viral. And what I realized right away, I was like, oh, they haven't watched a like, see, I watched every video he posted out from
Mm,
start to finish. And I was like, I see where he's coming from. I understand him. And
mm-hmm,
I think me and you and other people would all say, I wouldn't have done that, but I also understand why he did it.
mm-hmm.
What I realized was people were posting that hadn't watched any of the videos, that didn't
Right.
see his second. Again, we just get reduced to this little, like sometimes I saw people weren't even looking at the videos, they were just seeing a little meme
It's
or
like
a
a
little
bite
this.
size of our existence.
And
It's like one
that's what
little
social
nibble of
media.
existence. I'm going to take one little molecule of your existence, and then I'm going to make this the totality of who you are as a person,
Well,
or,
here's how
or
strongly I felt
speculate that
about it.
this is who you are as a person.
I I loved that guy for so long and admired him and his stances and his bravery and his entrepreneurship. Like, he paved the way for people in 1,000 different ways, that even if he had come out to say, listen, I'm so convinced that he's going to do this deal that I'm supporting him, I still could not have said, like, I saw people saying, F Ice Cube, I never want to see him again. It's like, but
Who else
again,
you
we're
got?
right. Well,
I don't know why our people, I'm saying, I don't know why we are so delusional to the point at where we think we so strong in numbers.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? Like we got so many motherfuckers to spare that we could
yeah.
just discount, discredit, and discard one of our true pioneers. If you discard Ice Cube, who you gonna replace him with?
Well, here's what's crazy. Like, let me tell you a little story. There was this sister in Dallas, Texas, that was killed, named Tatiana Jefferson, and you may remember her case.
Yeah, the
She
young
was in
lady, when
her
she the
home.
one playing the video game.
She was playing video
She
games
was
with her
playing video game
nephew,
with her nephew, right?
and it was hot as hell outside in Dallas. It was muggy, and she had left the front door and the back door of her house open. She felt safe in her neighborhood,
Mm-hmm.
let the air flow through the house.
Mm-hmm.
Her neighbor called the police saying he thought somebody had broke into the home. The
Mm,
police literally didn't go into the home. They went to the back of the house, saw her in the house, and shot her through her bedroom window
mm,
as she was playing video games with her nephew.
mm,
Well, me and her attorney, Lee Merritt, we decided we wanted to start with the family, that
mm-hmm.
we wanted to start a fund for her nephew's college expenses. At the time, he was just a young boy, but so that when he got to college, he would have this. Tatiana was a college graduate and had been encouraging all the kids in her family to follow in her footsteps. So the family started this fund for his college.
Mm-hmm.
And people who hate me and said that I've been stealing from families then started a campaign with GoFundMe to pull the fund down. GoFundMe saw it and didn't know what to make of it and pulled the fund down.
Damn.
For a year, we tried to get the fund restarted with GoFundMe, the family and the attorneys, and we
Mm.
couldn't reopen it. Now, do you think that the people who pulled that fund down went to then raise the money themselves?
No.
No. And listen, and here's the painful part. It wasn't white folk or white supremacists or anybody else
It was
who
us.
had that campaign. It was black folk who had it brought down. And it wasn't like they were going to go raise the money. So to this day, the money hasn't been raised.
It's terrible, man.
And so we're doing this thing where
How do we fight that? Like we're fighting that while fighting white supremacy, while fighting, systemic
it's hard,
oppression.
man.
How in the fuck do we
Yeah.
fight that while fighting our own?
It's so difficult because it then over and over again, it makes us struggled to fight for the causes that we need to fight for, I have seen, I run an organization called Real Justice, and that's the one you mentioned, Real Justice PAC.
Right.
And it's a political organization, and I have to educate people on why we start PACs. PACs are able to raise money for people running for office.
Gotcha.
Now, why it's important, that stands for Political Action Committee. And why that's important is our biggest organizations that represent Black folk, they're not allowed to raise money for political campaigns. So the NAACP or the Urban League or our famous colleges or fraternities or sororities, they're all nonprofits, and nonprofits can't raise money for politicians.
Right.
What happens is when good people run for office, our best organizations can't raise money for them.
Right.
So we've started an organization called the Real Justice PAC, where we raise money for people who are running to be district attorneys across the country. So we've won now 20 races in Philadelphia, San Francisco, Boston. We just helped win a race in Los Angeles.
Dope.
I see people all the time say, if Shaun King is supporting this candidate, I don't want anything to do with it. And it's like, hold on. This is the candidate who's going to change the whole system. How are you allowing your hate with me to get in the way of doing this? And I see people do it all the time. And some of it is people not having a real political education about how the system works.
Right.
And social media is a place that feeds on hate, that feeds on gossip.
Right.
And so when you post something,
and
even
it ain't the place to go look for sympathy or understanding at all.
No, man, no.
At
Don't
all.
go. It's not on there because, and here's the thing. I have people, I've seen this happen even with you. I have people all the time who tell me through DM, Shaun, I love you, I respect you, but anytime I post about you, the negativity that people post in my comments is so harsh.
Right.
Shaun, I'm just not going to, literally, I've had people tell me, Shaun, just know I support you, but I'm not going to post. Yeah, but only through DM. And well, what they do is they try to make you untouchable, Tip. And I've seen them try to do it with you, with Cube, or me, or I could name 100 people. They even tried to do it for years with Tamika Mallory to try to say, well, Tamika's anti-Semitic. And just now,
absolutely false.
Yeah, and just now, through our support of Tamika, has she finally gotten the attention she deserves, but they still won't have Tamika on CNN. They won't have her on MSNBC.
Right.
And so their goal is to make our leaders and our spokespeople untouchable. And I see it all the time, man, where now you do all this good work, but there's certain people, because it's like, oh, but I heard this about Tip or that about Tip, so I'm not going to post it. It's like, come on, man. We
Really,
got to,
bro. Hey, man, you know, even if you have a problem with the messenger, don't shun the message, because the message is what's important. You know what I'm saying? We have like enormous gaps and holes within our communities that need to be filled, that need to be plugged. And I'm all for stepping back and letting somebody else do it.
Right.
But it ain't nobody else like in no hurry to do what I'm doing. So whether you like it or not, I'm the best motherfucker you got.
well, see, people don't understand that, man. My closest partner in this work is a civil rights attorney named Lee Merritt. And
I did a panel with Lee.
That's right. You were just on a panel with Lee. And Lee and I went to Morehouse together. We've known each other since we were kids. And Lee and I have this phrase that we say all the time. We say, it's on us. And there have been a couple of times where Lee and I both said, you know what, on this case or that case, we're not going to step in and we're not going to do anything. And we just wanted to wait and see, is somebody else going to step in and do this?
Right.
And we realized on a lot of cases, nobody else is going to step in. It's on us. But it's primarily the people that don't step in that got something to say. And so you just gotta be careful who you let in your ear and what you let impact your heart. But all of us kind of live with our heart on our sleeve.
Sure.
And so it makes us,
because if we didn't have a heart, we wouldn't be fighting.
Yeah, but that's also what makes it sting is our hearts out. We haven't allowed ourselves to grow so cold that we
Right.
stop caring. But that also means that the other stuff stings a lot more than we need it to sometimes.
I mean, 90%, 95% of it, I can let the shit go.
Yeah.
95% of it, like,
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
once it gets down to, like, it becomes infighting, and I just imagine what white people looking at, like they sitting back, like, look at them, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And that, to me, I'm embarrassed for the culture at that point. I'm embarrassed, like, just for our community, because ain't no way to get, because it seems like we just gonna continue to chase our tails and
Yeah.
assist white supremacy by killing each other
Yeah.
on their behalf. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
well, it wasn't just you, but you and several other people posted a graphic recently about saying, "Hey, we have to find ways to stop killing each other, and please, if you're coming to Atlanta, understand that if you wanted to, this can be a place of peace.
Right,
Stop coming here and having shootouts and killing each other." When I saw that, my first thought was, I understand, and I want that for Atlanta as well. And I think most people in Atlanta saw that and was like, yeah, and matter of fact, I saw a lot of people repost that after you
right.
posted it because the message was really clear. Then all of a sudden, people began saying, like, oh, is he talking about this? Is he talking about that? And it's like, listen,
Which had no bearing on my mind. I mean, now, okay, due to the timing of it, I understand how people who were impacted by,
sure.
the recent death, how that could have come into play, because that was the only thing that was on their mind at the
Right.
time. However, I myself, man, to be honest, and even to my fault, if I'm wrong for this, I will accept
Of
my
course.
fault for that. I did not even think about the situation once before I posted it. It hadn't even dawned on me. I'm just talking about historically what Atlanta has been known for.
Yeah.
Atlanta has been known as the utopia that everyone from out of town can come to. They can open businesses here. They can, create new lives for themselves and their families here. They can become a whole different person.
Yeah.
And you can't just go do that anywhere.
Yeah.
You cannot go to LA and do that. You cannot come to New York and do that. You cannot go to Detroit. You can't go to Miami. You just can't do that anywhere else.
Right.
And
But it works in
usually
Atlanta.
what
Right.
has been known to happen is those people who come down and start new lives, they bring whatever issues that they were running away from down here, and it gets settled on our streets, and our infrastructure is impacted because of it. Now,
I hear you.
most people who ain't from down here, they may not even understand this. They might not even consider it. And I'm gonna probably get a bunch of fuck yous, even though I don't mean no harm. I'm just speaking on behalf of progression. Because if
Well, see,
nobody says anything, then things will just continue to happen the way that they happen, and it's gonna spiral out of control. And eventually, what we've all worked so hard to build will be destroyed.
you almost like see. My family and our kids were born in Atlanta. I got married in Atlanta. I lived there for almost my entire adult life, and we still see Atlanta as home. My mother is there. My brother and his family are there, and and for us now that we live in New York, I'm in Brooklyn. You don't really understand what Atlanta has until you've been there for a while and then spent time somewhere else, and then
Mm,
just realize like, oh damn, where is a black dentist?
right,
Where can I find a black OBGYN?
right,
Where can I find whatever it is you're looking for?
right.
You have quality black representations of this in Atlanta. So here we are in Brooklyn, which has over 1 million black people live in Brooklyn all by itself. And it's like, but still it's hard to find a successful, thriving black business community here.
Mm,
It's here, but in Atlanta, it's everywhere, and it's a different
prominent.
standard. Yeah, and not only that, but not only do you have a black mayor and black people in every area of leadership, you also have relationships
Right.
with these people, and you just don't have it that way
And
in
we have
other places.
influence. We have influence
Right.
on the corporations that are housed here. We have
Yeah.
influence at Delta. We have influence at the largest, the most busiest airport in the world. We have
Right.
influence at Home Depot with Arthur Blank. You know what I'm saying? We have influence at Porsche and
Yeah.
Ford. Like, we have created the kind of leverage that Black people hope to have in every other area of America. We
Yeah.
have it here. And the only thing we can do now is fuck it up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Well,
but so I'm speaking on behalf, I'm speaking in favor of that. Now, should I have considered, should I have known, should I have thought about it? Perhaps, yes. I will accept fault for that.
yeah.
That I was not, it was not on my mind due to all of the other things that go on and that have gone on. And it was not on
Well,
my mind.
sometimes even well,
It
even
was
for
not
me,
intentional. But had I taken a little, should I taken a little more time to consider maybe what the tone or the temperature of the time or the timing was? Perhaps. But that is a different level of scrutiny
yeah.
than saying he was talking about them and he intentionally saying that and he know people are hurting. He know he ain't. See, now you're accusing me of something I never had no intention of. I have never had no agenda or initiative or I never set out to do that. But you still continue to put that on me, even after I've said, listen, this ain't what that was meant for. This did
Yeah.
not in any way direct toward that. And if you think it did, it didn't. So now let
Yeah.
me just clarify that for you. I've spoken to everybody that I know that's involved or who I know to speak to in the situation. And I've clarified it with them personally, offline. Now, to the public, not that I owe anybody any explanation, I'm just telling you, this ain't that. Even after that, didn't, I mean, it wasn't like, man, we know Tip, man, always fighting for us. We know Tip always got our back. You know what I'm saying? We know Tip ain't mean no harm. We know it wasn't that. It was, oh, hell no. Now, hell no. He did. He meant it. He meant it. Like, bro, that's what made me say, you know what, bro? Man, fuck it.
Yeah. Well, I know it stings, but people today, people don't look at your body of work. You're at the long arc of your life. You know, people aren't looking at your whole biography. That's what you said a minute ago, man. They're just looking at little snippets and
Yeah,
reducing us to these little
reducing us
moments.
to a microscopic reflection of our existence, and they're trying to make this small morsel of what they see at that moment
Yeah.
be the
All
totality of who we are.
yeah. Well, man, just know that as frustrating, again, as long as you're fighting for the empowerment of Black people, for the freedom of Black people, if it's
Right,
fighting Lloyds of London, or if it's fighting against a local restaurant, or if it's
right.
speaking about violence, anytime you do that, you just have to know the pushback and the blowback is real. But I just hope that you understand it's worth it. And the that sting will wear off and go away, and there'll be moments where you get celebrated as well that'll help some of the pain ease off. But I'm grateful that, because the truth is there's so few people speaking up the way you are. I don't want you to stop, and we don't need you to stop.
Well, this is
uh
therapeutic for me. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
This is because I usually I just tote it around, and you know, whoever's around me, I might speak on it. You know, like, this is therapeutic to actually have someone who I feel can understand, you know what I'm saying, both sides, how hard the
Yeah.
efforts are, how much sacrifice come with it, and you know how impactful, you know what I'm saying, it may be on your psyche to have to go against the people that you on the front lines fighting for.
Yeah.
So, you know
Yeah,
what I'm
I
saying,
think.
this is therapeutic for me. So thank you.
And even to know, though, Tip, that we're not special. You know, whoever your hero is, if it's Malcolm X, if it's Dr. King, if it's a local leader,
Right.
man, they dealt with all of this. Like Dr. King, I talk to people about this time where Dr. King moved up to Chicago
Mm-hmm.
and literally decided he was going to move into the projects to speak about public housing and disparity in housing.
Right.
And Chicago gave him hell, man. Not just white Chicago, but a big part of Black Chicago as well.
Mm.
And it was pretty much a fake Dr. King. It's not a
It
moment
was
of
a
his
what?
life that I said it was that time of his life where they moved up to Chicago was almost a failure.
Mm.
And you don't hear a whole lot about the time he spent in Chicago. There's so many people. When Dr. King was killed, his approval rating was in the negative, not just with white folk, but with black folk as well.
His
And
approval rating was in the negative.
man, he had with black folk, he had a 54% disapproval rating the week
Damn.
before he was killed. And he had like a 75% disapproval rating. Bernice will post this from time to time. It was with Gallup polling,
Damn.
and he was one of the least popular leaders in the country with black folk and with white folk
Damn.
the week before he was killed. You know,
And
when
then he died and
Malcolm
his
was
approval
killed,
rating shot through the roof.
no, that's literally what happened. It almost completely reversed. And the same
Man,
was true of Malcolm
that
X.
is
Malcolm X
disheartening.
Malcolm X had a horrible approval rating with black folk and white folk. And people understand that there were white folk who didn't approve of him. His approval ratings were worse than Dr. King's. And so now, in our community at least, we see him as like a sacred figure. But it wasn't that way when he was alive, man. These guys were struggling even in our own communities and got major pushback. And you know, I just have to look back and realize that even the best of the best
These are not
struggle.
unique challenges.
Nah, we're not special in that sense. You
Right.
know, anybody who's stepping out like that, including our heroes, they all took it and they kept going. And we owe it to them and those who came before us to just push through the
And keep
ugliness. And
going.
it does hurt, but to keep on going. Yeah, man.
Man, and you speak not just on the side of activism, you also speak from a unique area of experience. You being a victim of hate crimes while growing up in Kentucky, even caused you to miss a portion of 2 years of high school due to multiple spinal injuries. What was that experience like? What were the details of that experience and
Oh
in
man.
your history with racism?
So first, that was 25 years ago. And I have to tell people that because when people hear about what happened, they want to feel sorry for me today. But I've healed from the pain, the physical and emotional pain of what I dealt with.
Mm,
So I grew up in rural Kentucky in a small town between Lexington and Frankfort called Versailles. It
mm,
looks like Versailles in France, but these were country people who
right,
didn't know how, so we called it Versailles. And I grew up, my mother was white, and I grew up multiracial, biracial at a time when we didn't even have those words.
right,
And I was born in 1979, and this is long before we have Barack Obama, before we're using the language that we use to describe people of mixed race backgrounds. And
right.
so in Versailles, like I even saw you and Tiny talking about this on live recently and had me cracking up because I don't know where y'all were, but I think Tiny was trying to say I don't know
She
if she
thinks
was
she black.
speaking
She
of herself.
mixed. She keeps saying she mixed. No, you're a black
Yeah.
woman.
Well, see, where I grew up, there was you were either black or not.
Right.
And when I got to high school, so I was popular in elementary school and middle school, but when I got into high school, it was a super racist place.
Mm,
And me and all of my friends started experiencing ugly bigotry and racism right away. I mean, we would
damn.
be called racial slurs. I had a guy, my high school, Woodford County High School, was so country that white students were allowed to chew chewing tobacco in school.
Damn. Are you
And
serious?
I had a in school, they could chew it and they would spit the spit in jars. I had a
Mm.
guy one day throw a jar of chewing tobacco spit in my face. And this was stuff that we experienced all the time. Two different occasions, me and my friends almost got run over. Like we had literally trucks full of racist white students try to run us over. We
While
reported these
you were
things.
walking.
Yeah, while we were walking, when we had people try to run onto yards and run us over, I mean, we were scared to death. We reported these things to the police, to the school. We knew the students who did it.
Mm.
In March of 1995, after almost a year and a half of high school, I was a sophomore. I had reported all of these moments, all of these incidents, and white students had just gotten the story that they could do whatever they wanted to do with me and there would be no consequences. So on March 8th of 1995, in the middle of school, I was walking to my band class. I saw me and my friend LaRon, and I write about this in detail in my book. We saw this group of students, we called them rednecks. We saw them up at the top of the hall, and it looked like they had been fighting each other.
Mm.
And I now know what they were there for, but LaRon and I looked at each other and even laughed that they were fighting each other. I had to walk through that crowd to get to my band class. And the closer I got to that crowd, I started to realize that they weren't fighting each other. They were doing something else. I didn't understand it. When I got into the middle of that crowd, they just kind of swarmed in on me. And I realized, I even heard people say, that's him, that's Shaun King. They just swarmed in on me and started punching me from every angle. I fell down onto the ground and just like curled up in a fetal position.
Mm.
And that group just started stomping on me. And it felt like it lasted for 5 minutes, but probably only lasted for about 45 seconds.
Damn.
But I ended up, the injuries were so bad, I missed the rest of my sophomore year and all of my junior year of high school from that. I had fractures in my face and ribs. I had 3 spinal surgeries. And none of the students who did this were ever held responsible, never held accountable. And it was not only painful to recover from it.
I'd go shoot them, Shaun.
Well, we
That's what
thought
I
about
do.
all of that.
I mean, I ain't grown that much. See, I haven't evolved to a place of forgiveness like you have.
Well,
I know that they say that vengeance is of the Lord, but they also say faith without works is dead.
Well,
I
it
go
took
shoot
all
them, Shaun.
I'm thankful that we didn't, because had we done it, it would have changed all of our lives for the worst, because we thought about it. Even my
I'm
mother,
talking
who's
about
still
today,
alive.
Shaun.
Right,
I'm talking
right.
about today.
Well, it
But
took
God
me.
bless you, brother, because you know you're the type of spirit that we need. You're the type of spirit, calm, cool head, strategic, educated, and has other ways to
Well,
bring about results than violence. That's
I've
what we
let go.
need.
I've let go many years ago. I let go of the anger that I had attached to it. But I'll
Mm-hmm.
tell you this, and for everybody who's listening, I don't know if you'd know me had that not happened to me. I'm not glad it happened. I still wished that it hadn't
It's a
happened.
defining moment.
Yeah, it changed the entire direction of my life.
Mm.
Before that happened, I cared about injustice and I cared about people, but not in the way that I did when I finally recovered from all of that.
Right.
When I recovered, I had a heart for people who were hurting,
Mm.
not just physically, but emotionally, people who were experiencing severe pain. And not just that, I had a huge heart for injustice. And it just caused me to figure out a way to focus my life on helping people. Your
What's up, man? I
dad
just want
knows.
to let people know that at Morehouse, you were elected president of Student Government Association. You were awarded the Oprah Winfrey Scholarship, but you've never been a politician. Have you ever considered it?
I've thought about it. Right now I get to influence a lot of people that are running for office, and
Mm-hmm.
and you do the same thing. Like,
Sure.
I love my role of being able to be involved in a lot of different races. It's something I've considered, but I'm pretty comfortable doing what I'm doing right now, man. And
That's dope.
what I
I
was
think it's
trying to,
better to be a king maker than a king in that sense.
I
You know
feel,
what I'm saying?
and that's how I feel, man. Like, I get to help. So, we've managed campaigns all over the country, and that allows me to do a lot behind the scenes. And I do got to run, but what I was saying was that shaped everything. Like, I moved to Atlanta just a year later,
Is
and
that what made you become a school teacher?
oh yeah. I mean, when I got to Atlanta, I just wanted to figure out how can I use. So I got to Atlanta in the shadows of this ugliness that happened to me. I moved, right onto the campus at Morehouse, and I was just trying to figure out how can I use my life to make a difference. And my first job out of Morehouse was as a high school history and civics teacher. And then for years, I worked in jails and prisons all over Metro Atlanta, full time.
As a
I was a
teacher?
traveling teacher.
Mm.
Yeah, so I
Well,
traveled.
man,
Yeah, I traveled all over the place, man,
I've
teaching.
taken up so much of your time. I've taken up, you've been so gracious, and you know what I mean? You've contributed, I mean, time and time again, yourself, you sacrificed time with your family and even, you know, your personal time to kind of woosah for you, you know, for through your own troubles. You've sacrificed that on behalf of the people. I want to say thank you.
Oh, thank you,
You
man.
know what I mean? I want to extend my extreme gratitude, because I think just a thank you goes a long way. You
For
know
sure,
what I'm
man.
saying? From people who understand that, man, you ain't got to do this. I understand you can spend your time plenty other ways. Thank you for doing what you do for us. Thank you for spending time here on Expeditiously. And this has been Shaun King. Watch your favorite episodes of Expeditiously right now on the Expeditiously YouTube page.